This is One on One. Ras Baraka is with us. He has been a councilman in Newark since 2010. And he is a principal at Central High School. And then we thank you for joining us. Your opponent, Shavar Jeffries, will be joining us in another edition of this program. Excuse me, the other half of this program. But let me ask you this simply put. Post-Cory Booker era, the biggest reason why you should be the mayor of the city of Newark is?
Well, I believe that it's time, so leadership is not called on by ambition, but it's called based on necessity and time. I think the conditions in Newark call for the kind of specific leadership we bring to the table, this kind of grassroots, bottom-up leadership that's clearly different from the leadership we've had in a very long time. Cory Booker set the stage, he turned on the lights, filled the audience with people, opened up the curtains, and now it's time for Newark to perform. And I think I am the right person to get the Newarkers to come together and do the greatest performance that we've ever seen in a long time.
And Mr. Baraka, what is the number one problem, the number one challenge that you see facing Newark that you will focus and tackle first?
Well, people talk about public safety as being the number one issue in the city, but I see that as a symptom, and I would agree that public safety is an issue in the South Ward, the East, the North, but really I think it's jobs and economic development. So I think that Newarkers need a host of jobs, living wage jobs, to stabilize families. We need economic growth, not just in the downtown, but in the neighborhoods where people live at every single day, to begin to bring some life back to these communities and these neighborhoods.
So that's what Newark needs, but how do you get it?
Well, various ways, right? So Newark has a few clusters in the city. So we have a kind of transportation cluster, we have the medical cluster, we have educational clusters, we have a seaport that's growing that we have to begin to develop a strategy around. We also have to invest in workforce investment to make sure that we train Newarkers to be prepared for the jobs in the growing markets that are there. We have to expand the college community, build more retail, not just downtown and neighborhoods like I just said earlier, put more housing in our community. So put people to work around projects and in areas that are growing in our city, expand our small business base. We have 400 manufacturers in the city that need research and development, that need technical support, that we have to use Rutgers, the best business school, in my opinion, in the country, to get involved and help us to grow these small businesses and put more Newarkers in jobs.
You know education better than most because you are hands-on, leader, Central High School. So many children in the city of Newark struggling, not succeeding in the way that any of us, all of us would want them to. You have been critical of the school superintendent, Cami Anderson. You have been critical of the state's control of the Newark public schools for many years, which it's been in control of the city schools. Your biggest beef is what?
Well, the state has been in control of the schools for almost 20 years, and we have not seen any really significant reason that they should still be there. Ultimately, the schools should be under the control of the people. I mean, local support, local control is what we ask for and what we need. Number one, Cami Anderson, the superintendent, state-appointed superintendent, is doing a lot of radical and disruptive things in the city without the consultation of the people, without any concern for what the people believe or think, no community engagement whatsoever. She's closing or proposing to close many schools and have closed some already without even informing parents of where their kids will go to school, what's going to happen to these neighborhoods. There's no busing in our city, so parents have no way of getting kids across the city when you're talking about a city where 50% of the population don't even own a car. So these things need to be slowed down and they need to be vetted by thought partners in the city.
Respectfully, though, slow down in a situation, Ras, where graduation rates are very, very low. In a situation, again, better than anyone, where so many kids are struggling, what would you say to those who say, we need to speed up the reform effort? You say?
No, I would agree reform needs to be sped up, but I think it's vulgar to say that the only reform is the reform that these people come up with. So the only reform is that we close schools, that we lay teachers off, that we renew these schools that are not working. Those things are not reform to me. Those are kind of real estate practices.
What would reform look like in your view?
Reform happens in the classroom. The closest to the classroom that things are, the better and more possible you'll begin to see kids begin to learn. So reform to me looks like longer school days. It looks like getting—
You'd be open to that?
Absolutely. We were the first school at Central in Newark to have a longer school day, Central High School. did that, but not just extending the time, but extending coursework, like providing students with opportunities to take courses that they wouldn't have the opportunity to take before, bringing New Jersey Performing Arts Center in, bringing the library and the museum in. So those are the things that need to happen, and teachers need to have quality job-embedded staff development. Those things need to happen. We need to help teachers improve their craft, and we need to provide a robust curriculum in these schools.
What's your position towards charters? You want to increase charters? Do you support co-location charters in public schools?
We live in a free market economy. Charters have a right to come to Newark and compete for children.
And you would encourage them to do so?
They have a right to do so, and I'm not going to stop them. They have a right to do that. They have the right to compete for children and grow if they can, and help us educate children.
Co-locate them in public schools?
And help them educate our children. But ultimately, my job is to make sure that we have strong public schools.
And just one more on parental choice. Would you support a pilot program in Newark that would allow vouchers to happen here in Newark? Pilot program.
I'm absolutely opposed to vouchers, period. I don't think, there's no proof or evidence that vouchers even work. So this whole discussion.
But if you have a pilot program, maybe you'll find the proof that it works or it doesn't work.
I know what does work, though. What does work is job-embedded staff development. What does work is extended school days. What does work is to make sure we have a robust and diverse curriculum. So those things do work. So we can invest in things that do work and not waste money trying to speculate on things that we know haven't worked before.
Mr. Baraka, Mr. Jeffries has been critical of you in a range of areas. He'll have his opportunity to talk about that. Biggest reason why he should not be mayor is?
Well, he doesn't have any experience. I mean, even Cory Booker, when he came to Newark, New Jersey, became the councilman first. The guy was an assistant attorney general, the third in charge for 2 years, came to Newark, was on a school board for 3 years, has no municipal experience whatsoever. So I don't, in this critical and crucial time in Newark, I don't think we have the time to waste to learn on the ground. So they have to move forward.
Well, quick follow-up on the issue of crime. One of the things that Jeffrey says is, hey, listen, look at the South Ward where you've been councilman. Crime is out of control.
Right. That's the most disingenuous thing I ever heard of.
Go ahead.
So, I mean, to make people believe that the Attorney General's office, the third in charge, has more effect on crime in the city of Newark than the mayor of the city, than the police director, than the police captain, the chief, and everybody there. So the only two people that affect crime is the third in charge of the Attorney General's office and the councilman. That's the most ridiculous thing I ever heard of. So violent crime is up in the South Ward, but robberies and burglary is up in the north and the east. So the people on this ticket, are they also responsible for the crime that's going up?
So how would you reduce, what steps would you take to reduce all crime across Newark, especially murder rates?
I mean, particularly, there are a few things that we have to do. One, we need more police officers on the street in our community, targeting folks who we know are committing these crimes. So police have the information and the demographics to do this. We need to take them out of the precinct, take them out of the community affairs, take them out of the offices, and put them in the neighborhoods where they belong, particularly in a time when the police numbers are dwindling. We need to do that.
Because of budget crisis.
Because of a budget crisis. And we need to have the best police director and the best police chief to do that, to clean the department up and make those things happen. But on the back end, we need to make sure we begin to invest in those neighborhoods where we have robust after-school programming, mentorship, literacy program, social services, job training, job skills, that we target in areas that are high crime and high violent areas.
Do this for us. Some media attention about your letter writing, if you will, on behalf of Al-Tariq Gums.
Right.
Clarify for this. Gang member involved in, when he was in jail, allegedly, if you will, I think convicted of plotting to commit a murder. And some criticism from Mr. Jeffries and others who said, hey, wait a minute, what is Ras Baraka doing, writing a letter on behalf of Mr. Gums, saying good things about him, and you turn around and said, wait a minute, if we're going to fight crime, you've got to be connected to, associated with, and understand gang leaders. Make that case.
Absolutely, and I know you know, Steve, that politicians all over the country write letters for folks that are in jail every single day. But the reality is we're moving off of like Operation Ceasefire, programs that the Justice Department have come up with that talk about involving ex-offenders, gang leaders, to help us to begin to reduce a crime in our neighborhood, to stop the recidivism that's going on in our community, prevent other young people from joining the path that he's going. We're not asking Al-Tariq Gums to come out of jail. We never did. He has 20 years in jail. He's probably going to be in jail for the remainder of his life. The reality is he's locked up. He's a captive audience now, and so we want to be able to use him to stop other kids from doing that type of crime.
You make no apologies for jumping in and saying, hey, Yeah, I have relationships with gang members. Because in 2004, you were involved in, explain that.
Well, in 2004, when I was the deputy mayor of the city of Newark, Sharp allowed me to travel. Sharp James, who was the mayor, then allowed me to travel around the country and find ways to stop the gang increase in the city of Newark. And we had a gang truce. Because of that, we brought 250 to 300 children or young people or gang members in 500 Broad Street in Newark, New Jersey, and began a truce. People began to start talking about putting their guns down, workshops, skills training. Bill Cosby came in several times to speak to them. We brought leaders in from all over the country.
It's not coddling them at all. If Mr. Jeffrey says, no, you don't engage them. You just have to be tough with them. You do not have conversations.
Or you're legitimizing a gang leader by trying to help him out.
Well, the funny thing about that is that when folks go to jail, they come back home, right? So when they come back home in our community and they don't have the skills and things that they need, they disrupt our neighborhood over and over again. And if we continue to this cycle, then we have to stop the cycle. We're not coddling anyone. If you get caught doing a crime, if you're using guns, you're gonna go to jail. That's the law, right?
So,
in a minute left, the current mayor, because of certain actions that the current mayor has taken, Mr. Quintana, the state is threatening to take over the Newark budget. Do you think that the state has an argument to do so, and what would you do to prevent that from happening?
And do you really want this job, given that situation?
The state has absolutely no reason to take over the city of Newark's budget. Absolutely no reason to do it. And in this transitional period, I think is wrong for them to even attempt to try that in the first place. There is no malfeasance, no misfeasance. The council is moving forward. No deadlock at all.
But in all seriousness, I'm half joking, half serious. But you say to yourself, the state's coming in, they're looking at the fiscal situation. Is it a job, you say it's not the job that I thought it would be? Are you going to have that control?
Well, I think we're going to make sure that we're going to do what we need to make sure that the state doesn't take over the budget, and we're going to have to work with them and make sure that does not happen.
You're confident you can do that?
Oh, absolutely. We're confident to let them know that we have a strategy, a plan of our own to make sure that Newark is fiscally strong and that we'll work with the state in whatever we could do.
Ras Baraka, we greatly appreciate you coming on and sharing your perspective. That is most important. And remind people to vote on May
13th.
May 13th. Thank you so much.
All right.
When we come back, a conversation with the other candidate for mayor in the great city of Newark, Shavar Jeffries.
One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating 25 years of broadcast excellence. And 13 for WNET, NJTV, and WHYY. Funding for this edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been provided by Virtua, the New Jersey Education Association, Johnson & Johnson, the Ohlendorf Center, the Adler Aphasia Center, the Russell Berry Foundation, and by this public-spirited organization. Promotional support provided by the Star Ledger, powering NJ.com, and by NJ Biz, all business, all New Jersey. One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been produced in partnership with St. Joseph's Healthcare System.